Welcome back, everybody, to Auction for the Soul. This week's Parsha is Perashat Beshalah. And finally, that massive event happens. The Jewish people, freed from their bondage in Egypt, finally make their way out into the desert, only to be blocked by a massive, the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds, and they are unable to cross. And we know how the story goes. Eventually, God says to Moses, don't pray, move into the water splits, and they get to the other side. And you'd think that's where the story would end, but no, it does not. The story continues. And as the Jews cross the river, what's interesting, actually, a interesting midrash, there's one opinion that says that when the river split, it wasn't a massive split where you could see from one side of the beach to the other side of the beach, that the sea split with every single step that you took. So you put your first foot into the water, and then the water kind of pushed back a little bit, and then more and more and more and more. Each step required a little bit more faith in their ability to get to the other side. All right, but I don't want to talk about that today. I want to keep going a little bit into the other parts of this week's Parsha, which often we miss. Parsha tells us that they journeyed v'yisu me'elim. They went to a place they left this place called Elim. And the Vayavo Kol Adat Bnei Israel and all the Jewish people came to this place called Midbar Sin, right? The Sin Desert, okay, which is just a name, okay, and that is between a place called Elim and Sinai on the 15th day of the second month after their departure. This is already a couple months later. They finally made it out. They're free to celebrate their newfound freedom. And they spent time with Moses. They had the 10 plagues in Israel, in Egypt. They have the massive sea splitting in the ocean, watching their captors finally being destroyed. And now they have their freedom. It's a couple months later. What do? Vayalinu kol adat bnei Yisrael al Moshe ve'al Aharon b'midbar. And the entire community of children, the Jewish people that came, when they did what they'd love to do best, they started complaining. They started complaining against Moses and Aaron. What were they complaining about? They complained because the bread that they took, all the matzahs they brought out with them from Mitzrayim, where they were finished. There was nothing left at all. So rightfully so, they want to know what's on the menu today. And I really believe that if you are a Jewish parent and you've traveled and you know how crazy we are about packing food, it started all the way back here. It's in our DNA. We have 3,000 years of worrying about where's our next meal going to come from right here in the Parsha. All right, it continues, and it says, "Vayomru Eleihem bnei Yisrael mi tenmotenu me'yad Hashem be'eretz Mitzrayim." If we only died in the hand of the Lord in Egypt, right? Parsha begins, tells the Chamushim, 80% of the Jews did not leave Mitzrayim, and they ended up dying in Egypt. Okay, and now over here, the Jewish people are saying we should have just died in Egypt. We sat by pots of meat and we ate bread to our fill. Right, you brought us out into this desert to starve, to kill the Jewish people. We knew it. This was a trap. And Moshe is listening to this. Moshe, now I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand. God just revealed himself through 10 of the most amazing miracles. We split the sea. And now you're worrying about food? Okay. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe. Guess now they're talking to Moshe. God hears it. And Moshe is going to respond. Okay. Hashem is going to respond to what's going on. He's paying attention. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe. He says to God, he says to Moses, Hineni mamtir lechem lechem. I am going to rain down for you bread. Min hashamayim, from the heavens. V'yatzah ha'am v'laktu davar yom b'yomo laman anusenu helech b'torati imlo. They have to go out every single day. Okay? The people have to go out every day to gather their food for what they need for the day. So that why? So that I can test them. Laman anusenu. So I can test them to whether or not they will follow my teaching. This is a very strange pasuk. Do you guys remember this? Because I don't remember seeing this part in the Charlton Heston rendition of the Ten Commandments. Right? Well, I understand. They were complaining. That part I got. But then God says, you know what? I'm going to send them man every single day. It's going to be a daily event. And they got to go out and collect. And I'm doing this to teach them, to test them, to see whether or not they're going to follow my teaching. Interesting. Let's come back to that. Okay, I'm just going to mute everybody for a minute. Okay, anyway, so, and then it continues. And it says, Pasuk continues. It says, Vayya bayom hashishi, and it will be on the 6th day. When they prepare, they're going to get a double portion for Shabbat. Asher yalktu yom yom. Okay, great. So they got this information from God. They're getting their food and they're preparing. Vayomer Moshe Aaron el Bnei Israel. They told the Jewish people, Erev, tonight in the evening, Yadatem ki Hashem. You will know tonight that God took you out of Mitzrayim. What? This is 2 months later. They still don't know. I don't understand. This is such a fascinating read. That this is 2 months later and they still don't know that God took them out of Egypt. Okay, and in the morning, what does he say to them? Uboker uritem et kavod Hashem b'shmo. In the morning, you will see God in His full glory, because He heard at tenulotechem el Hashem. He heard your complaints against God. V'nachnu ma kitalinu alenu. And what significance are we that you make the complaint you bring to us? We're nothing. We're just a servant of God. This is all, by the way, if you want to find it in the book of Exodus, this is the 16th chapter. Definitely worth looking at it with your own eyes and going through it on your own with the Rashi, of course. Okay, so now they're going to see God, and they're going to know now there's a God. Not only are you going to get this bread, but you're also going to get this heavenly bread. You're also going to get meat, because what's bread without a nice piece of protein, right? And you'll become satiated. Lechem baboker lisboa mishmo Hashem el tunechem asher atem alinim alav anachnu ma. Okay, we did that already. V'yomer Moshe emor al kol bnei Israel kruvu lefnei Hashem ki shamatu etchem. Draw close to God. He heard your complaints. V'ikadavar Aaron. When Aaron came down and he spoke to the entire community, they all turned to the desert and they saw God. The cloud was coming down, and God spoke to Moses saying, Shamati, I heard everything. I did all of this. What's going to end up happening? He's going to bring this slav, this special bird, this a quail, that they would come down and they landed there, and they all had all the nice chicken sandwiches you could possibly imagine. Okay, great. Now, you have the mun coming. Okay, they did exactly what they said, and they are recognizing that there's this thing called tal shichvat tal, right? This dew that went up and it came on the surface, and it created this like sandwich on top of this dew, okay? And they have no idea what this stuff is. Each Jew looked at the other and they said, Manhu, right? Ki lo yadu mahu. It's called Manhu because they had no idea what to call it. Mahu. What is it? I have no idea what this stuff is. They couldn't come up with the original name. No marketing Jews here. Vayomer Moshe Alehem, Hu halechem, this is the bread, Asher Natan Hashem lechem leechol. This is the bread that God gave you to eat. Okay, fine now. Let's try to unpack this. They get the bread, they eat the bread, everyone's happy now. Story comes to an end, so to speak. All right, now, this is a fascinating parsha over here. You would think that at this point, after everything they witness, they'd have the clarity they need. I got it. You proved it. God came down. He revealed himself at the sea, at the plagues, and yet somehow God says, "No, I'm going to give them bread, not once for the month. I'm not going to make a one-time delivery, like you make your Amazon order, you pick out what you need for 30 days, and you do it again. I'm going to give them a daily delivery. Every single day, it's going to come fresh." My question is why? Now remember, there's a deep correlation between bread and sustenance. Bread and our sustenance. The whole purpose of our pu'ulot, our actions of work, is so that we have sustenance, we can sustain ourselves. I get a job, I make money, I need to go ahead and provide for my family. What am I providing for? Sustenance. What's the sustenance mean? Sustain their lives. I got to provide them with food. I got to put food on the table. I got to make sure there's what to drink and there's what to eat. I got to provide shelter. And what is God saying? You think that you're going to go ahead and have all of your lechem, your parnasah set up for you for the whole entire year, but I want you to know something very, very important, that I am testing you day by day. It's a daily thing. Every day you're going to open up your account, you're going to look in, what do I got in there? What's going on? How am I going to survive? How am I making it? What am I doing? This is what God wants. He's testing us every single day to see if we actually believe. Hemantem bi, did you believe in me? Did you have the emunah? Did you have the faith? Because with everything that they saw, it still didn't make any sense to them. They still didn't have that faith. Now, let's say for a moment you were born in the desert. Okay? And for 40 years you lived there, and all you saw daily was this dropping of the man. And it was delicious. And it's very easy to get yourselves to a place where you say, you know what? Wow, Jews, we have this special bread that comes down from heaven. And that becomes your norm. And you recognize that it's all godly, but it's part of nature. Because the nature of all miracles is that when something happens over and over again, you forget that its source is magical and mystical. And the same is true with us. How many times are we guilty of having a moment of clarity, recognizing that there is a truth in our Judaism, a truth in our Torah, a truth in our belief? It becomes clear, and then I lose it. And then I doubt everything. Which is why I believe the Parsha ends with Amalek, that doubt that we have to overcome. But the Parsha Haman is a Parsha of, do you believe that every single moment of your life, God is providing you with everything that you need? I said this earlier. We say, when I make my hamotzi, I say, everyone should look up to you. You open up your hands to all those people that have the ratzon, that want to come along and connect to you. Those people that have the ratzon will receive. Doesn't everyone want to receive? And the answer is no. Different people wanted different kinds of things. Some people complained. They weren't on the level for the man to fall out right outside their door. The man fell out 30 feet away. You believe less? 50 feet away. Less than that? 100 feet away. The degree that you had to put in your effort to get your sustenance was a reflection of your emunah, your belief. And this has all kinds of, of theological issues. Should I get a job in Judaism, or could I just sit and learn my whole life? If the whole purpose of the man was to test my belief, is it really saying that I don't need to do anything? I could just go ahead and sit and learn, and God will provide for me? And the answer is no. In Judaism, we cannot rely on miracles, which is a fascinating question. Why did God allow the Jewish people to get to the bank of the sea and rely on a miracle? This was the birth of our nation. The splitting of the sea, these stories of us having the supernatural bread, was all an expression of God putting the Jewish people through therapy, rehabilitating us, because we got ourselves to a place where we no longer believed in anything supernatural. We believed in nothing special. We believed that we were just in a caste system and forever stuck as being the lowest people of the earth, slaves, no opinion, no drive, no desire, nothing. And if you want to break yourselves out of slave mentality, you got to be rehabilitated, which is what all those miracles were for. But God is saying something different, I believe, in this week's Parsha to us. He's saying the thing that you worry about the most, right, the place where you spend most of your bandwidth, which is worrying about your parnasah, there is a deep correlation with your belief and how God provides for you. There's two kinds of people. There's the kind of person that wakes up and says, I know no matter what I do. I'm not saying you shouldn't put in your effort. We believe in hishtadlut. Put in your effort. The Rambam in Hilchot Talmud Torah, chapter 3, halacha 10, look it up, okay? Chapter 3, halacha 10, in the laws, Maimonides' laws of Talmud Torah, of learning Torah, says, a man is not allowed to sit and learn and without having a job to provide for himself. You can't. He says you can't do it. Asur. I know you're going to say, well, what about all the people that are doing it? That's a much larger theological conversation. We could have another point. But at the core of what Judaism wants, it wants you to be responsible, not to live a life of miracle, the miraculous, but to recognize that every effort that you take, every move that you make, every breath that you take, every step that you make, God is watching you. And He's watching you to see one thing. Recognize that your effort is all He wants. Results, not on you. You can't control the result. One guy goes out to the stock exchange, he comes back, he makes $1 billion. Another guy who's smarter and more educated comes back with $1. He's got nothing. Why is it? Two people, similar degrees, similar experiences, one is successful, one is not. I can't answer that question. I can only tell you that some people have it a little bit different than others. But I will say this is I believe is a very deep, true Jewish fact, which is every single person gets exactly what they need. And what is the need fulfilling? It's giving you what you need so that you can grow. You're not given too much. God does not give you 3 days worth of man. He gives you 1 day because that's what you need. And that's the test. the day-to-day grind, the whole entire parsha, is that this week's parsha is parsha of emunah. Do I believe? Do I really have trust that there is a all-loving Borei Olam, creator in the heavens, that is looking down at me, watching everything that I have? Do I really believe that he cares about me and that everything that I've gone through was part and parcel of a greater plan? Am I doing exactly what I need to do to become a better, greater human being? Am I taking advantage of all the benefits and the gifts that he's given me? Or am I still stuck as a slave in Egypt, needing the proofs that there's a God in the world? In our generation, it doesn't take much to prove God. I think it's easier today than ever before. I think science does a great job of proving it. But the thing that we have to overcome is our own slave mentality. I don't want to be the guy that has to walk 300, 500 feet to get my bread. I want to be the guy that when he opens his door, the man is waiting right there. And the thing that is holding me back from becoming that person that has it there is my own belief, my emunah, my own understanding of my belief in God is holding me back. And therefore the only way to remedy that is through learning, through teaching, through sharing, through getting ourselves into a place where we can hopefully develop ourselves into individuals that have this deeper love and appreciation for the nuance of everything that is in the Torah itself. Because it's so easy to be given everything and feel like you have nothing. It's so easy to feel like, wow, you know what? It's hard to be grateful for things that you think that should be there. Like those kids that were born in the desert. That's just the way it is. That's the way the world works. God created a world where you open up your hands in the morning and you got bread falling in, you're good, one little piece, and you sustain for the rest of your life. It's so easy for that to become the norm. You think it's normal for us to be sitting in these, I wouldn't say they're all luxurious, but in our comfortable homes. It's cold outside. It's heated in your home. You have this thing called light, right? You have this device that allows you not to leave your house. Some of you are in other countries, and you're listening, watching and listening to a conversation across the world. Do we forget how miraculous the world that you and I live in is actually? It's profound. And we forget that every moment of our lives is a miracle. You go to work, you make a check at the end of the day, you're getting paid, you have money in your bank account. That, my friends, is God feeding you. Gemara tells us in Berachot that there were different students, Rabbi Ishmael and Rabbi Lazar, who went ahead and would debate as to whether or not a person should work or not. You sit and learn, and God will take care of everything, or you go out and you work, and then you do with whatever time you need to go ahead and learn. The truth is, in the old generation, everyone worked so that they can learn. You went to work so you could find a way to go ahead and have the ability of opening up the books. That was the whole function of the work, not for the luxury. And I'm not knocking luxury. Enjoy the luxury, but it can't come at the expense of not developing the self. I'm going to end with the following. Today is Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat is the holiday of the tree, the new year of the trees. Okay? The Chachamim tell us that Tu B'Av, which is the 15th of the month of Av, this is at the end of the summer, after Tisha B'Av, it says that was the happiest time for the Jewish people. Why? Because they stopped cutting wood for the Mizbeach. Why they stopped cutting wood? Because on the 15th of Av was a time where the sun lost its strength. The sun wasn't as hot anymore. The summer was coming to an end, and you saw the temperature started to drop after Tu B'Av. Now, we know that when Moshe was in Har Sinai, it's going to come up soon, and he came down with the tablets. He was there for 40 days and 40 nights. How did he know when it was morning or night? He was in heaven. How did he know when to do Shachrit, when to do Arbit? And the Midrash asked the question, says, you know how you knew? Because God would teach him Torah Shebiktav, the written Torah, the text from the Tanakh, the Torah during the morning, and Torah Sheba'al Peh was taught during the night. Okay? Now, Tu B'Av is the beginning of the end of the summer, which is the beginning of the end of our time in Torah Shebiktav and preparation for Torah Sheba'al Peh, a different kind of learning. If that's true about Tu B'Av, then Tu B'Shvat, which is today, is a transition out of a time of darkness into the time of light, into the time of Torah Shebiktav, the parts of the Torah that are open and revealed, not the esoteric parts, but the revealed parts, which means there's a change that's happening. The Zohar tells us that when things change above, they begin to change below. When things change below, they begin to change above. So what are we celebrating today? The celebration of the tree drawing its sap out of the earth. The tree is dead. Does anyone know what actually allows the tree to grow? Right? It's just air and sun. The water facilitates the growth, moving around of the energy and the minerals. That's it. That's what's happening today. The reawakening of the potential in the tree. And just like the tree is reawakening, we need to reawaken ourselves. It's going to happen very quickly. Okay, we're a few months away from Pesach. Okay, we're a few months away from Shavuot. We're a few months away from the summer. It's going to happen so fast. This is the summer. The winter is coming to an end, my friends. And this is the time to start preparing and asking ourselves, how am I going to be more this year? Am I going to be stuck like the Jews who are always going to complain about everything that is wrong, everything that is missing? Or am I willing to take that first step and become something bigger, greater, and better and say, no, I believe, I'm going to work on my emunah, I trust that I have everything that I need, I'm going to develop myself and I'm going to keep growing. I'm not stopping. That's what this time is about. That's what this holiday is about. It's not an accident that the Perashat Beshalah, the Parsha when the Jewish people complained about water, and we know that God said, you know, that you can't go out for 3 days without water. So he gave them water. And Ezra HaSofar said, we learn from there that Torah is Ma'im, is like Torah, Ma'im Chaim is Torah, and therefore you can't have 3 days without learning Torah. And therefore he made a special decree that every 3 days you have to have Torah. So what do? Every 3 days we have Torah. Monday, Thursday, Shabbat. There's no 3 days without learning Torah because you need sustenance. Just like you need physical sustenance, you need spiritual sustenance. And there's debate which one's more important. And I'm going to say they're both as equally important. You need both. You cannot live a life of excellence without living a life of spiritual greatness. You come to all kinds of crazy conclusions. I'm not sure that if you saw this, but there was a video of a famous Israeli, I think he's a historian, Yuval Harari, who basically said that, you know, the whole concept of morality was an invention of man, and, you know, we're no different than any other animal. And it's making rounds that every normal thinking person on Twitter today was screaming at him saying, you fool, your own line of logic, you remove God from the equation, and it's just a set of rules that man made for themselves, opens you up to all kinds of atrocities. You take out God from the picture, okay, you have a more dangerous world. Everyone was coming after him. I'm telling you, I'm reminding you, I'm sharing with you that if we want to live in a world of peace and harmony, there has to be this concept that all people were created in the image of God, that we're all responsible for each other. I don't know another army, like in Israel right now, that is trying to do everything it can to limit the pain that the Palestinians are going through. They're the ones that are responsible for their food and for their. If Russia isn't giving any food to the Ukrainians, not delivering any kind of aid to the Ukrainian people, it just doesn't happen anywhere. Which country that goes to war with someone else for a war they started and then has to support them? We live in such a backwards planet. In Jordan, okay, they opened up a new restaurant called October 7th, and they sell shawarma there, celebrating October 7th. This is 2024. You have the International Court of Justice trying Israel for war crimes against humanity. It's broken. The world's flipped. And if we're not working on creating some way of grounding ourselves into reality, you will be lost. Like the 80% of Jews that did not make it out of Egypt. They were lost to a whole entire slave mentality, a slave kind of thinking. You want truth, you got to fight for truth. You want to live in a world of peace, you got to fight for it. Hashem oz lamo yiten, Hashem yivrech damo b'shalom. God will bless us with strength and then with peace. Strength isn't just military strength, it's intellectual strength. The learning that we do, the preparation of time that we spent in our limud is all designed to fortify us from a world of insanity, to test you, to figure out whether or not you want to be a bigger, greater human being. Don't ignore your souls. The juices are flowing. The man is there. The comfort is there. The money is there. Now what are you doing with it? How are you elevating the self into something more? I'm wishing you a Shabbat Shalom Mevarach. May God bless us with the clarity of recognizing that we are souls that require soul food. May He give us the ability to recognize that we are so far from reaching our full potential, and that we actually use this time of Tu B'Shvat as a way of anchoring ourselves in reality, grounding ourselves in our faith, so that we could become the best that we could possibly can, so we could help turn this world of darkness into a world of light. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.